Greetings everyone, it is Shadow Leon once more, and today I am finally doing my first ever versus video, though it's not technically my first because I already did one involving Sonic Heroes and Godzilla 1998 and whatnot. The link is in the description below. So now I'm gonna talk about two movies today, both of which were about insects and whatnot, although I prefer one of the over the other. Not to say that A Bug's Life is a bad movie and whatnot, it's just that I prefer Antz over A Bug's Life and whatnot. And of course, here are my reasons to why I think Antz is better than A Bug's Life. And of course, here are my reasons to why one is better than the other. So let's go. Let us talk about the plot. I personally think that Antz has the better written plot and whatnot than A Bug's Life because, it's the whole, this random nobody by the name of Z who pretends to be a soldier in order to join the Ant army and whatnot. But after, a devastating battle and a devastating and savage battle, Z is welcomed as a hero and everything. So he later starts bonding with the princess and whatnot, but unaware that his actions have accidentally started a rebellion and whatnot. So basically, Antz is the story that tells us about our main protagonist going from a nobody to a somebody and whatnot. Antz, of course, A Bug's Life tells the story of Flick, who accidentally causes a disaster that puts his whole colony at risk and whatnot. And so he has to look for warrior bugs and everything in order to confront the bullyish grasshoppers and whatnot. Personally, people, I think that Antz has the far better executed story because the stakes are high and whatnot. The antagonist was a legitimate threat and everything. I actually pretty much cared for the characters and everything. I will mention more about why one has the better characters over the other later on. So for now, the reason why I'm not really too fond of A Bug's Life plot is, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it is another movie that uses the tiresome liar revealed cliche. When a movie is gonna stop using the tiresome liar revealed cliche, because it just adds forced conflict, forced drama, and it just makes the characters look like idiots and whatnot. Yeah, that's another reason why I'm so sick and tired of the liar revealed cliche. So anyway, let's talk about the characters. Antz is most definitely winning in the characters department because each and every one of the characters, including the bad guy, I found likable and whatnot. It is because, I find the protagonist, yes, he is a loser, but of course he was pretty likable and you're worth rooting for him and whatnot. I also did like Princess Bala, Sharon Stone's character, and the chemistry between them and Z is fantastic and whatnot. I did like Stallone's Weaver, who was basically the lovable big brute, who was basically the lovable muscle of the group. Gene Hackman's General Mandible was a charismatic and pretty threatening villain and whatnot. I did like Christopher Walken's Cutter. And Dan Aykroyd was pretty hilarious as a wasp. But then of course we also have Danny Glover's Barbados. Even though he had a minor appearance in the movie, I felt really bad when Barbados' character died. I totally thought the guy was gonna live until the end and whatnot. Poor Barbados, you deserve better. Let us all pay F to pay respect for him. But unfortunately, let us talk about the characters in A Bug's Life, and oh man, I just could not care less about I could just not care more about the characters in this movie aside from Flick, the circus bugs, and the grasshoppers and whatnot. I'm just gonna say it, a majority of the characters in A Bug's Life were just unlikable and not worth rooting for. Say what you want about Antz, but at least Antz had the more likable characters and whatnot, and at least I could remember a majority of the characters in Antz. I just find the same Antz who treat Flick the whole, just being complete dickheads and whatnot. If you ever read the TV tropes of jerks or worse than villains, the Antz from A Bug's Life seriously fall into that category. I really hated these characters so much that I was just rooting for the grasshoppers to kill them all for treating Flick like crap and whatnot. To be fair, it was their own fault that they even got themselves into that mess in the first place. And let us also talk about another thing I also think Antz did better: drama and emotion. When we see that aftermath of the battle that Z was going to, man, it is a really emotional scene where he now meets the decapitated Barbados, and Barbados gives that emotional speech and whatnot, saying that you shouldn't do this and that, you should think for yourselves and whatnot. Antz really does have dark and mature themes tackling, the whole war is hell, how totalitarian governments oppress their citizens, how a dictator thinks that he's better than everyone and whatnot, when in reality he's not exactly that. And it was nice to see the Antz start joining Z's side and stand up to Mandible and whatnot. Even Cutter himself got a redemption arc. And honestly, Cutter's redemption arc was pretty great in where he finally stands up to Mandible and whatnot. And then of course Mandible gets angry and whatnot, and then he tries to attack Cutter but ends up accidentally attacking Z, which results in him falling to his death and whatnot. And of course it really does have a payoff. Let us look at A Bug's Life. Yeah, A Bug's Life really does have, emotional moments and whatnot, but honestly, the emotional moments aren't really that well executed, considering how a majority of the Antz are pretty unlikable and whatnot. Every time something bad happened to the Antz, to a character who wasn't either the circus bugs or Flick and a few others, I just really didn't care for them and whatnot. Let us also talk about the bad guy. Antz is winning this fight in the bad guy department. General Mandible is a pretty charismatic and menacing antagonist played by everyone's favorite Gene Hackman. He at least had a purpose to the plot and narrative, and at least he was there in Act 1, 2, and 3, in where he uses his charisma to convince, should I say, the Antz of the colony otherwise and whatnot, and he has complete control over the colony and whatnot, and he even tricks the Antz into digging a tunnel that would flood the colony so he can rebuild a new one that is ruled by the better Antz. His ideology is basically the superiority-inferiority complex. Now let us also talk about the villain in A Bug's Life. I don't say that he's a bad villain and whatnot, but when compared to Mandible, he just really pales in comparison. He appears in the first act, disappears for majority of the second act, and doesn't reappear until the third act and whatnot. He doesn't really act that much like a villain, and more like that secondary school bully and whatnot. And of course, since he's played by an actor who I no longer respect, and yes, I hate that actor. I hate him so damn much that if I ever see him in person, let's just say the guy would not live to see tomorrow. And seeing him die was actually pretty satisfying and whatnot, even though he wasn't that good of a villain to begin with. So anyway, those are my reasons to why I think Antz is better than A Bug's Life. So what do you guys think of my video? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching as always. By the way, I still enjoy both movies, but one is better than the other. So, Shadow Leon 659 signing out.